All right, let's get to some basketball. Ric Bucher joins us, Fox Sports 1. As you can see him on Speak for Yourself, what happened between Kevin Durant and the Nets that had that dual statement come out today?
That is $1,000. No, that's $1 million question, Doug. By the way, before I continue, Paul Shirley says hello, having just had lunch with him. I didn't know you guys knew each other.
We played again. We know each other a little bit. We played again. He was on a great Iowa State team that beat us twice my senior year. He was the sixth man on a six-man team that was awesome. And, of course, he's an outstanding author, which I dream of toning the ADD down enough to actually write a book. He wrote it a long time ago, and it's great.
Yeah, and has another novel coming out, actually. Now I know why he wanted me to say hello to you. But that said, my task today is to find out what turned with Kevin Durant and the decision that he made. I don't know as of yet. I will tell you that a number of GMs in exploring this, even in the height of him saying, I want to be traded, and reiterating that, did not think that he was going to be going anywhere. And in part because it was going to be so difficult for the Nets ultimately to make a deal that was going to be equitable, and that they simply they got 4 years. We'll test your resolve, KD, and so that Joe Tsai's history as a businessman and his willingness to say this is the way I'm going to do things, and not be afraid of ticking off a Kevin Durant or a Kyrie Irving, for that matter. They from everything that obviously they stuck to their guns. What ultimately changed? What did they say to Kevin Durant that made Kevin concede and say, "Okay, we'll go forward this"? That I don't know. That's something that I'm going to work on today in the next few days to find out.
I mean, could it be as simple as, hey, look, we're all dealing with, like, it doesn't work. We don't know if it works. We haven't had a single training camp where everybody who's on the team in the playoffs, especially the stars, are actually there. Okay? Are actually there.
Yeah, I mean, that's some of it, but all of this started because Kyrie and KD went to Brooklyn thinking that, ultimately, they went there because they thought, we're going to run this show. And when Joe Tsai and Sean Marks got to a point with Kyrie where they're like, we're not investing in you long term. We don't believe in you long term. That wrecked the idea and the concept that KD and Kyrie had when they got there. KD was like, oh, wait a minute, you're not investing in my business partner? And what I really find interesting is that Kyrie's in L.A. right now. Kyrie has a place in L.A., and I know someone who just saw him yesterday, and he was not invited to the confab in L.A. that resulted in this announcement that they're sticking together. That's what really fascinates me, because making peace with Kyrie, I would think, would have to be part of making peace with KD, because KD has made it clear, like, Kyrie's my guy. Anybody who thought that he wanted to leave Brooklyn because of all of the histrionics with Kyrie does not understand that relationship. That's still his guy regardless. And what upset him as much as anything is that Kyrie was not being offered an extension or an extension to his liking. And so that is the heart of it. Is like, how did they convince KD that that they're good with Kyrie, or that the relationship there is going to be good enough for them to go forward?
It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. Okay, so if Kyrie wasn't involved, does that mean Kyrie's still in play?
What I can only go and by what I was told, and this was several weeks ago, and as we know, we just saw things change with KD. So I was told that the Nets were adamant about moving Kyrie, that they did not want to go forward with Kyrie, and they were simply letting the Lakers twist themselves in the knots to give up multiple first-round picks and young talent in order to get Kyrie, just to raise the desperation stakes when it came to the Lakers. Maybe, as I am thinking out loud now, maybe that was the trade-off that the Nets gave in meeting with KD, which is we're not going to move Kyrie, and we'll entertain signing a long-term deal at the end of the year or at some point when we see how this goes. If things are going well, if you guys have it going and can make something of this, then we're happy to re-up with Kyrie. I'm speculating now in terms of what might have changed the dynamic, but that would do it. And particularly from where they were 3-4 weeks ago, where it was, we're not going forward. We don't want to deal with the Kyrie circus any longer. We're going to find a way to move him. Maybe they moved off of that to create a resolution with KD.
It's Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. What about Donovan Mitchell? He's still a member of the Utah Jazz. Will he be when the season gets underway?
I would say no. But we've been through this with Danny Ainge before a million times with the Boston Celtics. Danny's setting a really high price. Danny does not feel any urgency in terms of moving Donovan. He's rebuilding this thing, and he's going to try to get everything that he can out of it. He has no obligation to Donovan or anybody else. So it really comes down to, it's not the Utah Jazz pushing the meter, it's the New York Knicks. How desperate do they become? And I know that Tom Thibodeau and Leon Rose in particular, and World Wide West have told James Dolan that they are going to get a star. They're going to get a star sooner rather than later. When does the expiration on that arrive? And so I would expect that while the Jazz are asking for the sun and the moon right now, they'll find a way to reach an agreement with the Knicks and move Donovan Mitchell there. Knicks are desperate to have him. They want him. He's been on their radar for a long time. And so I would expect that they get that done before the season starts.
Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. And then we're left with the Lakers. Like, is it Kyrie or bust, or Kyrie, or they stand pat? Like, where are they?
Well, look, they're trying to get something done. This is the reality, though. They don't have a whole lot of assets. They're not a very attractive team, and there's the perception. I think there's the public perception. If AD's healthy and LeBron, scored well last year, he almost won a scoring title. Like, he can still be the same LeBron. Like, that's not the way guys in the league look at it. They don't see the Lakers as some juggernaut that they're ready to join, or LeBron being a player that assures them that they're going to be playing for a title. They're looking at it, especially now, as like, chances of us going anywhere in the playoffs aren't good, and if things don't go well, I'm going to be blamed for it. So there's not a real excitement among any quality players to go play in LA. And even with if you're looking at Kyrie being the answer, or Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, and I haven't heard any traction on that move. Like, even that, Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, that's not taking them from being an 11th place team to playing for a championship at this point. There are no easy answers for the Lakers right now. So in terms of deals that are going to be made, standing pat with Kyrie really hurts the Lakers maybe more than anybody else, because they could have at least sold the idea that we're getting Kyrie, we're reuniting LeBron and Kyrie. They won a championship. Yeah, it was 6-7 years ago, but we're gonna chase that magic. You at least had a selling point for hope. As of right now, they don't have anything along those lines. So when LeBron re-upped for the 2 years, and I said they're going the Kobe Bryant route, this is exactly it. Like, you could sell LeBron and chasing Kareem and all that, but the idea that you're chasing championships, that's gone out the window.
What was promised to LeBron?
What was promised to what?
LeBron.
Look, I don't know that anything was promised to him. It was simply he could re-up, and he could re-up for a very nice chunk of money. And, as far as I don't know that anything was promised as far as Bronny or getting Bronny or the opportunity to play with Bronny. I'm sure that conversation happened, but I don't know that anything was promised.
Buke, great stuff as always, man. Let's catch up offline. I appreciate you joining us on the Doug Gottlieb Show.
You got it, Doug.
But it's interesting that Kobe's birthday coincides with a mutual announcement between Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets that they've come to an agreement and he will play for them next year. It's interesting because if you know Kobe, remember, Kobe wanted to be traded from the Lakers post-Shaq before they won their last 2 titles. And ultimately, he remained with the Lakers. They refused to trade him. They added Pau Gasol, and they win 2 NBA titles. So we have been down this road before. I don't know what was discussed. And to this point, Ric Bucher joined us last hour. He doesn't know. If he doesn't know, nobody, in fact, knows. But as it gets out, there's just a guess here, or maybe we can look at it from this perspective. You can tell me you don't think it's going to work. It's reasonable. It's not an unreasonable take. Kevin Durant is still great, but he's had, obviously, the Achilles tendon tear. He's had a broken foot. He's getting closer to his mid-30s. Eventually, everybody levels off. I guess even with the exception of LeBron James, but even LeBron, but even though he's a little bit older, LeBron's leveled out some, but everyone else seems to be fighting father time then. He got hurt again last year. It's one of the things that derailed the Nets. He was having an incredible year, and he got hurt. So you're counting on 3 guys, Kyrie Irving, who's oft injured, Kevin Durant, who's been injured, and Ben Simmons coming off an injury. You're counting on all 3 of them to be relatively healthy all season long and then be ready for the playoffs. Additionally, you believe they're all going to buy into coaching. They're all going to buy into whatever moves the GM makes, and Sean Marks going to find a way to build a team where we all thought they were in flux most of this offseason with the possible trade of Kyrie Irving and then, at a later date, Kevin Durant. The problem with saying is we don't have any data. None. We have no idea what they look like when they're whole. They haven't had a training camp with all of them, with any of their 3 stars together. Hasn't happened once. KD and Kyrie's first year, KD was hurt. His second year, they didn't have James Harden during training camp. And you're like, well, what does that matter? Well, a coach can't implement a defensive system unless he has all his pieces there to work through the system and truly teach it. You can't teach it midseason. You don't even practice. And by the way, they haven't been healthy. So I'm not sitting here saying it's going to work, but I don't know, and neither do you. And honestly, neither does Kevin Durant and the Nets, and that's probably how they're going to get him back in that building.